Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the rumours about a potential plan that could mean Boris Johnson allowing another referendum on Scottish independence, but with some rather curious constraints on it. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So first of all, actually, just a shameless plug, later tomorrow night, Wednesday, I'm going to be appearing on Grassroots for Europe's weekly podcast with Maximilian Robespierre and Graham Hughes, where I gather we're going to be talking about social media. So link in the description below. But anyway, on to this nonsense rumoured about a 70% majority being needed. Now, the first thing to point out is that rumours like this can often just be an advisor coming up with something, but it's never actually put into practice. You know, the rumour is, oh, Boris Johnson's considering this. He may not actually be considering it. It may just be that it was discussed at a meeting. This particular idea is dumber than getting a dog to guard a pile of sausages. The rumour goes that Boris Johnson will spring a referendum, that a 95% turnout will be required and a 70% result in favour of leaving the UK needed. Now, there are three things there, and it may well be that not all of them are even true, because that's the problem with rumours. How do you know how true it is? It may be that only some of those aspects or none of them are really being considered by the Prime Minister. But the idea of springing a referendum is the only aspect that has any merit. If the referendum is going to happen, it's better that it happens sooner rather than later. The longer we leave it, the more support there's going to be. The SNP wouldn't be able to delay, and indeed publicly say they want one quickly. But if you note what Nicola Sturgeon talks about, it doesn't talk about wanting a quick referendum. Ian Blackford, different matter. But if Johnson says, right, look, yeah, you've got that majority, absolutely you should have a referendum now, and in fact you want one really quickly, I can't be messing about with all this, so it's got to happen in the next 12 months. That would work in his favour. But the other two aspects are a complete nonsense, and I don't just mean they're hypocritical, which they are, but they'd actually work against the unionist cause. So to explain what I mean, first of all, the hypocrisy. Now, it's considered good practice in countries that think about these things to require more than a simple majority when talking about far-reaching constitutional change. You know, something like a 60% or a 2/3 majority and, some reasonable bar for turnout. I don't think 95% is, but some reasonable bar for turnout would be very sensible. Absolutely. However, since the Conservatives have come to power, they have issued 3 referenda already. I'd never experienced a referendum in my entire life, and then suddenly we had 3 all at once. In no case was there a requirement for a certain voter turnout or anything other than a simple majority. And that included the notorious Brexit referendum of 2016, which Boris Johnson backed and insisted showed a clear will of the people when that was a 52% majority. That was a clear will of the people. And that had a roughly 70% turnout. But I'm not going to waste any more time on the hypocrisy, because Tories are hypocrites. They have to be. It's the only way they can win power, because what they want to do with that power is always against the interests of the people who voted them into office. But it would also work against them, because precedent has been set. If David Cameron had decided before his first referendum that major constitutional change should require a significant majority, 60% or something, I'm not sure 70% is justified, then this would be standard and could have been supported nationally, and people would have gone, well, yeah, major constitutional change, it makes sense that you should have more than just a simple majority. You'd make the case because it's an easy case to make. But they've already had 3 referenda, including one for Scottish independence. There were no stipulations for success other than a majority by a single vote. That is now the precedent. And because we've already had 3 referenda in the space of a decade, the UK population, we now feel that we know how referenda work. Oh yeah, we've had 3. So we've now got this notion fixed in our minds. Now imagine the scenario. This referendum goes ahead, and let's say 55% vote to leave with something like an 80% turnout. Now, the Conservatives will think they've pulled a wizard wheeze. Ah, you won, but not really, because you didn't get either the turnout or the majority thresholds. So no independence for you guys at all. Well, there are two levels of backfire here. The first is obvious. People who voted to leave will see that a majority of people who voted at all agreed. As far as they're concerned, the will of the people has been made clear, and the Westminster government will be acting as an occupying force in Scotland if they refuse to comply. It is also likely to draw international condemnation, and it will get very, very messy. Secondly, this won't just be confined to Scotland. A recent poll from Ipsos Mori, one of the reliable pollsters, has noted that over half of people throughout the UK, it's a little over half now, but over half of people throughout the UK now think there should be another Scottish referendum. This is not because many of us want Scotland to leave, but because no fair-minded person could possibly think it shouldn't happen. The last Scottish referendum in 2014 delivered a result of Remain, and so of course you shouldn't just keep giving these things every few years until the separatists get the result they want. However, one major campaign line from Unionists was that as part of the UK, Scotland had a very influential seat at the EU table. Alone, it would take years to join, and it would do so as a minnow. And that was perfectly true, but it is no longer true. They have now lost any influence in the EU. In fact, that influence would increase by joining the EU as a minnow. Even a minnow has more power than any of us do now. And if the people of Scotland would rather be a minnow in Europe than one in Britain, because they're not exactly showing much influence in Britain, let's face facts, any decent person will feel that they should be able to express their view now that the landscape has fundamentally changed. And that is the thing. If what was sold in a particular referendum is no longer the case, then there's absolutely an argument for another one. And if those fair-minded majority of the UK see the people of Scotland voting in favour of independence, they will also see any government that stands in their way as oppressors. Now, we have been told, we've had it rammed down our throats for years, 52% is the will of the people. And it wasn't even 52% of the people. It was 52% of the people who voted on that day, which is about a quarter of the people. So a quarter of the people is the will of the people. That's what we're told. But 52% is the number bandied about. The government insists, the Conservatives insist, Boris Johnson insists, 52% is the will of the people. So why wouldn't 55% be a stronger will of the people then? Why does it need to be 70%? And what if it was 75%, which it won't be, but let's say it was, but with only 90% turnout, which is still way above the Brexit referendum turnout. No. You know, such a move would backfire on the Tories spectacularly. And so I don't believe they'd actually announce such a policy. Even given that Johnson has announced some pretty dumb policies, he's gone along with some stupid stuff. Even he couldn't be thick enough to think that this would work. And that's without even considering that the courts might point out that it would be unconstitutional to lay unrealistic demands on a fourth referendum in the Tories' time in office when precedent had been set several times in recent years. The bottom line is that polling suggests that the SNP will win a majority of seats in the Scottish Parliament during the elections in a few weeks' time. If that happens, and it's very likely to happen, they will then push for another referendum. The case for it will then be overwhelming. It may even be that Johnson has no legal right to block it or enforce unreasonable constraints on it. Not a legal or constitutional expert, I don't know. What I do know is that Johnson will find it impossible to resist those calls long term. But the longer he tries to resist, the more support for independence will flock to the SNP's banner. I know that Johnson will have advisers screaming at him to allow the referendum because they've been doing so for a year. If you oppose it, it makes you look like you're running scared. That puts you on the back foot immediately when the inevitable campaign comes. Much better to appear like you're up for it and have no doubts about the result, of course. Besides, the quicker you can come to terms with it, the quicker you can actually start the campaign yourself. I've said it before. There are some who think a referendum would result in a majority voting in favour of independence because they've thought, well, there's been a clear majority in the polls for a little while now. But you have to consider that right now there's only been one campaign running, and that's the Nationalists. They're the only ones who've been involved. It's all one-sided. Once Unionists start campaigning, it may well swing the other way. Indeed, under normal circumstances, I would argue it would definitely swing the other way but for the fact those leading that campaign are likely to either be antagonistic like Johnson, and people may vote for independence just to piss him off, like people voted for Brexit just to piss Cameron off, untested like Starmer, or a proven failure like Gordon Brown. But anyway, I can worry about that when this is all sorted out and a campaign actually begins. Until then, those are my thoughts. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.